For over 100 million years, turtles like the loggerhead have roamed the oceans. Their migration routes are so long and so mysterious that nobody knows for sure where they go. Until now. Gnaraloo is in remote Western Australia, where the desert meets the sea, where coral reefs teem with wildlife. One of the last places on Earth where loggerhead sea turtles can safely return to nest, and where a team of scientists are satellite tracking them for the first time.
Turtles are fascinating animals. They have this really complicated life cycle where they nest on land. They'll spend 10, 15 years just floating in the open ocean as hatchlings. Then as adults, they'll make migrations of hundreds, maybe even thousands of kilometers. So it's a real mystery trying to unravel that life cycle and understand it.
But what we do know is this. Every year, between October and March, mature female loggerheads return to the beach where they hatched. The loggerhead waits for the cover of darkness under the stars. She climbs the beach and digs away the surface sand to form a body pit. She uses her hind flippers to slowly, meticulously create an egg chamber. And she deposits around 112 eggs. She pats down the sand to protect her eggs and keep them warm. Then, as dawn begins to break, she returns to the sea. But she's not alone on these beaches. Scientists from the Gnaraloo Turtle Conservation Program are stationed here for months at a time.
Normal modern-day living is not a thing here at Gnaraloo.
I can see like how it can be very similar to Antarctica because you're in a remote region.
There's no shops, we don't have any mobiles, so there's no signal if we did have a mobile.
So loggerhead sea turtles, they're endangered worldwide, and this population here in the Southeast Indian Ocean population is the least well studied of the 7 populations of loggerheads around the world.
Realizing how important it was to protect them, station owner Paul Richardson stepped in with head scientist Karen Hutton, who has led and managed the turtle monitoring program since 2008.
Loggerheads are endangered species, which means their population numbers are in serious decline.
We were the first ones to do the monitoring, really, and it proved that it was quite a significant rookery. Oh, that's absolutely spectacular. You know, they are like prehistoric, and the size of some of the females is massive.
Scientist Thompson is field supervisor for the project.
When we're doing morning surveys, we wake up at 4:42 in the morning, hop in the truck, we come down to the beach, and we walk a stretch of beach, counting tracks, trying to figure out what happened, whether they were successful nests or not, figure out what species they are. Then if we're doing night surveys, we'll leave home around 8 o'clock, and then we'll spend 6 hours walking these beaches, just back and forth, trying to see as many turtles as we possibly can. And that allows us to evaluate how well we're doing at interpreting tracks in the mornings. So everything we can do to get more information, to understand them, to inform conservation, it's really, really valuable.
To understand what the turtles do when they leave the nesting beaches, the team attach satellite trackers to 10 female turtles.
She's only about a metre from the sea. She's covering downhill, so I'm going to flip her within the next 2 minutes.
So we'll pick her up now, she's finished. Everyone all right? Yep. This is a loggerhead, and she's just finished. She's come up, she's nested, she's covered her chamber, and she's filled in the body pit. So she's finished doing what she was going to do, and now we've taken her and we'll put the tracker on her. Watch your fingers here. Yep. So we just gently scrape off all the algae, because we want to get down to the actual keratin of the carapace so that we can get the glue to stick.
They use a special glue that doesn't heat up while setting, then an anti-fouling agent to prevent algae and barnacles.
I'm happy with that.
The glue takes hours to set, so the team has to wait into the small hours of the morning.
So this is Gnaraloo, the second one we're letting go. We should see her come back. She should nest in 12 to 16 days. Then she'll head off back to her feeding ground and we'll find out where that is. It is possible some of these may go as far as Indonesia.
Over the next few weeks, 8 more turtles are held, tagged, and released.
She's hitting now. We're having a break. So have you got her balanced? And shuffle down this way. So we can tell her tracker's working. Okay, she can walk off. So I think this is Gnarly, huh? Gnarly's off on her journey.
Now, all the team can do is wait.
This is definitely the best part of the year when I do my turtle tracking, for sure.
The 10 turtles set off, and the satellite trackers begin to plot their migrations for the first time.
Satellite tracking sounds simple, but it's really not. The trick is that the turtles have to be at the surface at the time that a satellite is passing overhead. They only spend maybe 30 seconds to a couple of minutes there, so we'll only get typically 1 or 2 satellite fixes per day.
To share the journeys with everyone, the team created a free app, and people donated to give each turtle a name.
And this allowed the general public to follow along in these migrations in real time.
5 turtles, Coretta, Ocean Eve, Tildy, Norm Alex, and Constance Winifred, swim south, down the treacherous coastline to Shark Bay. Their presence here confirms for the first time that the turtles who nest at Gnaraloo use this area as a feeding ground. And what they feed on lives in the seagrass.
Seagrasses are really the foundations of a lot of marine ecosystems. They also provide habitat to smaller species like clams and mussels, crustaceans like blue crabs, sea snakes, juvenile fish. And if you see it from the air, you can see these shallow seagrass beds. They go for kilometers and kilometers, and that's prime feeding habitat. As amazing as this environment is, it's also under threat right now. And in 2011, there was an unprecedented marine heat wave, and that caused the die-off of a lot of the temperate seagrasses here in Shark Bay. These seagrass beds have largely disappeared in large parts of the bay, and that has a crucial impact on all of the ecology of the system.
The other 5 turtles, Palsy, Eugenie, Gnaraloo, Gnarly, and Marloo, swam north to foraging grounds near Onslow, past 80 Mile Beach, and even beyond Broome, over 1,500 kilometres away. Of the turtles heading north, one in particular struck out on an unusual path. This is Marloo, and nobody is sure where she's going.
Marloo made a turn and went straight offshore several hundred kilometers.
Deep into the Indian Ocean, out over the abyss, so I'm talking 4,000 metres deep. And we were watching her and wondering what she's doing out there, where she's going.
Is Marloo about to make an international crossing? Or could she be headed further around Australia's coastline?
And this made us start to wonder, is this turtle actually going to show us that there's connectivity between the Western Australian population and the Eastern Australian population? We've always thought that those are two separate things.
Could Marloo record the longest loggerhead journey of all time? Meanwhile, the Gnaraloo hatchlings incubate, emerging after about 2.5 months. The hatchlings push up from the bottom of the nest, doing a relay as the leaders get tired to reach the surface. Loggerheads have an iron compound in their brains called magnetite. This allows them to navigate using the Earth's magnetic field. They will use this amazing ability to relocate this very beach when they return to nest. But for now, there are many obstacles in their path. And some take a while to get the hang of things. But learning to swim is the least of their worries. Baby sea turtles are an easy target for a range of predators.
Pretty much everything is a predator of sea turtles. Their odds are about 1 in 1,000 of making it to sexual maturity and contributing back to the population. When there are eggs in the nest, they can be dug up by wild dogs. Introduced foxes have been a real problem.
As soon as the nest is exposed, it attracts the hunters. Predatory lizards, like parentes. Seabirds, like pelicans.
Ghost crabs are major predators, so they can kill up to 30 or 40% of the eggs in a clutch. And there are tons of them here on Gnaraloo beaches.
As the hatchlings get larger, they only attract larger predators. Carnivorous fish like gropers, snappers, and barracudas. Even moray eels and reef sharks.
When they get bigger, so they get massive as adults, their shells will be over 1 meter. At that point, just the big things are the predators like tiger sharks, sometimes white sharks, sometimes even things like killer whales and salties. it gets rarer as they get bigger.
While the team track Gnaraloo, Geordie investigates the turtles feeding at Shark Bay.
So satellite tagging tells us broadly where these turtles go, but we know very little about what they do when they get there. And until recently, we haven't been able to have a window into their lives. Now we have underwater action cameras that we can actually put on turtles for short term and show us exactly what they're doing.
Geordie worked with Florida International University to capture this never-before-seen footage. This juvenile loggerhead is hunting its favourite prey, a blue crab. But blue crabs are fast, and this slow-moving loggerhead needs a little more practice. This female loggerhead is approached by a male. He attempts to court her, but she's not interested. She repeatedly bites at his shell and his head until he finally gets the message. Loggerheads mate out at sea, but sometimes they get a little carried away on the waves, like this pair. Loggerheads tend to be solitary, but they may have a little look if they come across one another. This green turtle is looking for a rock ledge, perhaps to rest under or rub its shell clean. But this one's taken, and the tenant refuses to move out. It's a turtle standoff. They size each other up, try to decide who's bigger, until one of them admits his defeat and moves on. Meanwhile, Gnaraloo continues her migration.
Gnaraloo, when she left the beach, went up to Coral Bay, and then she went a long way offshore into the Indian Ocean and then through the Timor Sea. It took her 7 months to stop moving actually and get to Beagle Bay, just north of Darwin. And then we saw her hovering around just south of Melville Island for about 3 or 4 weeks. One Sunday, I noticed that her signals were just coming from one spot on the beach.
What happened to Gnaraloo? Why has she spent so long on one beach?
A bit worried about her there, so the next day I rang Rachel Groom. If maybe the Tiwi Rangers are in the area, they could go and have a look, see if she's all right.
Something doesn't seem right, so the team race against time to organise a helicopter search.
The turtle was in a really challenging location. It's surrounded by some really difficult sandbanks to negotiate by boat. We basically had no other choice to get there but by chopper. We've just got a tarp, knives, gaffer tape. We've got a weapon with us because we're expecting to see a croc on the beach. There usually is a croc around at a beach in the Northern Territory. As soon as we hit the beach, we've all started scanning, looking away, and I'm keeping an eye on the GPS. And it turns out the turtle was exactly where the GPS said.
But when they arrive, it's too late.
When we landed and had a look at this animal, it's quite a sad moment. Quite a large turtle just lying on the beach by itself. It seemed quite a sad ending to such a significant journey.
Gnaraloo has already passed away.
We were both very keen to do the necropsy and really understand what and how it may have died.
But her story wasn't over. The team rushed Gnaraloo back to the clinic for a final necropsy.
There was some significant algal growth on the turtle's back and all over the tag as well. I was quite surprised that it was sending such a strong signal. She's got gooseneck barnacles we could see as well, which also suggests she's been hanging out in deep water for quite a long time. She appeared to be very emaciated. We know that her body weight was well under what was recorded at the nesting beach. Almost half of her body weight was lost in that migration.
She had lost half of her foreflipper. It had actually healed all the way over, which suggests that it happened pretty early on in her migration.
It's where she would get most of her power from to be swimming this big migration.
How did Gnaraloo lose her front flipper?
Shark attacks is an obvious one. getting entangled in a net or some sort of pot, you know, a fishing cray line, something like that. The journey that she's taken, she diverted into some serious eddies. It appears that she has tried to right her journey somewhat to get back to the coast, but she obviously didn't have the strength. The currents were stronger than her. She's missing that power from her front flipper.
The other thing that the necropsy showed us was that there was nothing in her gut when she died, which means she had died of malnutrition or starvation. Now, there are a couple reasons for that, possibly. Either she wasn't able to feed effectively because she couldn't swim and catch her prey. Also, turtles are known to fast during a lot of their migrations, and so perhaps her migration was just so long, she wasn't able to get to where she wanted to be near shore to feed, and that's why she ended up dying.
It's been a sad story for Gnaraloo, but the project revealed many incredible firsts. We uncovered the mystery journeys of loggerhead sea turtles. We learned a lot more about their courting behavior and aggression. And the enormous distances they cover, putting them at risk in shipping lanes. We realized just how spread out their feeding grounds are and the diverse threats they face across such a large area. Above all, we understand our next challenge: to protect the nesting beaches at Gnaraloo, which loggerheads depend on for their survival.
The turtles are fantastic for people to see. Next year really is when our federal funding does finish. You know, with all the cutbacks and stuff, there's a good chance we won't get any more funding.
Preserving these areas for future generations is also a question of protecting biodiversity.
So maintaining the integrity of these habitats is critical to their survival.
I like to think that the information we're getting from satellite tracking and from cameras on turtles is giving us new ammunition for solving these problems and for making sure that future generations can enjoy sea turtles and marine life in general the way we have.